Protective Insight podcast. Putting the you in human. Hey, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome back to another episode of the Protective Insight podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for stopping by. We have a rather special, although I could be accused of bias because I say that every time we get a genius in to come and share their knowledge with us. But we have a very special interview to go over with you guys today. Constantine of Sentinel Security Plus is in to share his boundless knowledge with us all. But I believe you guys have been friends for a good long while beforehand. Isn't that right, Jim?
Yeah, we met a few years ago when we helped sponsor Byron Rogers Symposium in Miami.
Yes.
So opportunity down there, I got to come across. Constantine came down with his crew from Canada. They did a lot of videography and were taking a lot of stuff and interviewing the different guests and patrons there. And we had a few opportunities between sets and things with people around to actually chat. And just getting to listen to him, guys with his team. He brought Steve Somerville down. A lot of these guys just have a ton of extensive knowledge and experience in the security realm. Their passion and inspiration for what they do of upping the standards and bringing the quality to security, and enhancing that is phenomenal. And then not only on top of that, I mean, he does his own podcast. So I'm happy to have him here on the other side of the microphone because I had the opportunity to be on the opposite side of this for like a mini type version when we were in Vegas at the Close Protection Conference this last year, and just saw an opportunity with us having this here to really get to talk to him, pick his brain, how they started, what they're doing, because they're really doing some amazing stuff. They've launched the arena up there as well in Canada, which helps with people that are inspiring to go from the security sector into law enforcement. They've created this phenomenal training area to help get people qualified, work through the interview process. Is just something that I've been wanting to see here in the States for a very long time and have never seen it. So I want to find out more about that magic, what they did. So I would say without further ado, let's get Constantine on here and get this party started.
There he is. Welcome, sir. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. How are you guys doing today?
Very well.
Oh, I
very well.
can't complain. Trying to squeeze it in while we're working. You know how it is. We're in the field operating and moving around, so I juggling many things. But I know you're just as busy with the stuff you guys have going on. So I would say, man, just to start, Constantine. I've known you guys for the last couple of years, and it's just a growing professional, personal friendship. I just want to keep continuing. You guys are phenomenal. But for those that maybe haven't had a chance to catch, Sentinel Security or the Sentinel Mindset podcast, or even have heard of the arena yet, can you just dive into a little bit of what those are, what you guys are doing, what the vision is for that, and just give us like a little taster of the multiple facets that you guys are working in up there in Canada?
No, for sure. Look, 100%, guys. Thank you very much for having me on your show. It's an absolute honor. And so look, for myself, I guess the best way to start it all off is that when we entered into this realm of the protectors world, it came in from mine as a deep passion to fix something that I found was broken in Canada. And if you look at security as a whole, I know this happens all countries around the world. There's a lot of people that take it very seriously, and there's a lot of people that don't. And the ones that don't are usually looking to do something as a business to make it profitable, and they lead by that. The reason why I love the legitimate players in the game is because they're doing it because there is this protector DNA from within that is pushing them to help others. And that is the theme of everything that we do. Everything that we do, when I start talking about the Sentinel mindset, about the arena, about Sentinel security, all our companies, everything that we're doing has one common tie-in, and that is we're doing it to help others. That is the reason. That is the motivation. That is the drive. That is why I wake up in the morning. That is what leads me when I'm frustrated, when I'm down. It's just to remember that the work that we're doing is purposeful, driven work. So my background is not security. My background is not like high level executive protection. My background is social work. And I came into the industry completely by accident in 2009. The city of Toronto, which is who I worked for as a social worker, went on strike. And the strike was one of the longest strikes in city history. It was 42 days. We did not know it was going to be that long, but we were told that it was going to be long and start getting ready. So, because I wanted to always be a cop, and I never got into doing that because I got in as a social worker by accident, I uh, I had my security license, so I started to apply to many different environments. I started to apply to like corporate entities, to clubs, bars, to commercial, whatever that is. And the one thing that I recognized from Canada point of view from Toronto, that every place that I worked at, there was no standard. People were dressed however they wanted to dress. There was no training. Communication was terrible. The word not bodyguard, bouncer was things that I kept getting exposed to. And because my background's corporate, I thought, how can we do something different to change the game, to actually be a value service, bringing in that corporate tie-in? And I approached one of the companies that I was working for at that time, and I said, do you have any issues if I come in and I just bring a little bit of my corporate background to what you're doing? And he agreed to it. And then slowly, we started to bring in clients. But then very quickly, the clients were being lost just as fast as they were coming in. Like, why? Well, the people, right? The product, the people now were not living up to the standard. They didn't have the training. They didn't have the passion. It was just a job. And so we started to change that and started to hire people that wanted to do what we were doing, that had that little protector from within. And we started to build the company slowly to what it is today, where we've become like a household name in Canada, working with Fortune 500 companies, specializing in executive protection and hospitality in the events industry. That's where we've kind of created our mark. I really much enjoy that sector. And the newest thing that we brought on was healthcare. But again, everything that we've done to this point has had that one clear focus, and that's helping others. And I love a quote by Simon Sinek. He says, don't do business with people that want what you have, but do business with people that believe what you believe. And for us, that is how we move. We understand why a lot of the pitfalls and what are the issues happen in security and why some people don't even respect it. It's because of how it's presented and how it's pushed in. So I always want to make sure that I look for clients that buy into what we do, that respect what we do, so we can have a good relationship. The Sentinel mindset now, that was a passion project that I had that did not come out as the Sentinel mindset. It came out as a show called Standing in the Six. The Six is another word for basically the six boroughs of Toronto, or the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area. It's a phrase that Drake also coined, very much made it popular. So we had a podcast that would talk to basically anything from WWE, UFC fighters, investors, but we found that it wasn't connecting. Like, we weren't just getting anything with that flow. So my wife said to me, "Why don't you do something about your industry?" And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about that's going to make interesting? Anyways, she's kind of planted the seed. And since we've put out the podcast, which is now we're at about 105 episodes right now going into it. But since we've put it out, it's geared to the law enforcement, protectors, security, anything in that realm. And it's all about the mindset of an individual, how they can elevate their game. And it is focused to those target areas, but anyone can listen and tap into it. And since we've done it, guys, I will say this: I'm not doing it to market the company. I'm not doing it to make it go viral and make money. I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it. But since we've done it, we've seen so much business fly in because of that. Because what we're doing is kind of just showcasing, giving the public a glimpse in door of what we do. And it's been amazing. And it's a big tool. The purpose behind it was to give our people in our organization a lot of like coaching styles, a lot of like elevated mindset styles. We're all going to go through our days where we're going to have a bad day. And we thought, let's put out content that would help them, right? So that's how the mindset and the arena came into place. Again, I'm always finding a need for something. when COVID kicked in 2020,
Yeah.
our workforce got decimated. Like it got decimated completely. So a 40 to 50% of our incredible Sentinels, they moved on. And you may have noticed that this was a problem happening over the entire world where everyone was having a problem finding people, right? So in order for us to be able to attract a good amount of qualified individual, we came up with this concept where we would, because so many people come to us that want to be police officers. Like I'm talking, it's the number one reason why people come to us. They want to get that experience. I mean, executive protection is also in there, but it's more people wanting to pursue policing. We designed a program in our organization to help people get advanced training, get advanced work sites where they can test their training. And a lot of our people that want to be cops were also failing the physical portion of it. So we created a facility now that can help people get ready to get into their career objective goals in law enforcement. And we've embraced that we may only have them for a short time. We may only have them for a year. We may only have them for 2 years. But if we're part of their journey and we can successfully help them get to that next level, it creates a circle feed back into the company of people wanting to come to us, which means that we're going to get a higher qualified, higher level motivated individual that wants to demonstrate to us, that they can also do what they have to do to get to that next level, which means our level of service has gone up. So it was created as an add value piece for our people that we've opened it up to the public now. And again, all three, what they all have in common, it's to help others. And the last thing I'll say, because I know I've talked your ears off right now for the last 3 minutes or so,
I love it.
is because I lead our organization by passion, by empathy, by helping others. And because I don't lead our company by profits, by business, I'll have our VP come in to me and say, "Did you guys see what we did for the month of July?" And I'll be like, "No, I have no idea." And the reality is, I'm not focused about profits. I'm not focused about creating this immense wealth so I can retire on a beach in Tahiti. What I'm focused on about is how much impact we can make in someone's life. And because of that, we have been blessed. Our organization has been blessed beyond measure. We have amazing people. The companies are doing well. We're getting exposure, but we're continuing the mission statement is to help others. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, I couldn't even summarize that more. Is to get people like you on here, other people in there that we have connected with and are trusted that have that passion and drive. Because for us, it's the same thing. This isn't about business. This is like imparting knowledge, wisdom, experience, getting people connected to the right people, helping them solve problems. And I think I forget who said the quote, but there's a great quote years ago was, what if we train them and they leave? And the response was, well, what if we don't train them and they stay? So many people get
Mm,
hemmed up on that, so
Mm.
that and I can't emphasize that enough, that that's the key thing that I see is putting the people first, making it about your people. Ben, and we've said this in a few episodes. When
Yeah.
you take care of your people, the welfare of your people, the mission will get accomplished, the bills will get paid, your business will become profitable. But if you don't take care of the people, you don't really have a business to stand on, because if you're just focused on that bottom line and that dollar to be made, you'll be out of business quick. So my other question would be for you, Constantine, because it's a very common theme here in the U.S. too, and we have
And
that
in
stigma
England.
when it comes to like the uniform, security and stuff. You get some guys that say transition out of the military. We get a lot of retired, cops that come into the private security industry looking, and you get that good percentage that get in because that is their entry level step, right? They're looking for that private security experience that's going to get them into a law enforcement career or advance them somewhere else down the line. But how do we find those people? Because I'm seeing since COVID, like we're not being able to find the quality that we once could find or expect. Attitudes have been different of people coming into the industry, the expectations, and then, like you also said too, getting rid of that stigma when it comes to talking with the clients. Because there's so many huge companies, at least here in the U.S., that will drive quality down. They'll go in there and bid on a contract and get it at the lowest dollar amount, and then they staff it with people that don't need to be wearing a uniform or work in it. So it continues to negate any positive of the small groups that are trying to push like you're doing to break through that and go, no, look, this is what it is. You want quality people, you're going to pay this quality price for it because there's a level and a standard we're looking to maintain. I'm not going to drop and compete with these guys at the bottom of the barrel. How do we find that connection too, right? Not only for those people, but other business owners to say, hey, let's not race to the bottom. We should be standing unified together and raising the standard up. Like we shouldn't be so quick to, drop to the bottom.
No, look, I'm a big advocate of industry, like companies in the industry uniting and working together. Like I preach on that all the time. I put podcasts on that all the time. Like, let's find a way to work together to elevate the industry. The problem is that you have a lot of companies and owners that don't buy into that. Like, I'll give you an example. I'll say this: my partner, he doesn't think the same way I do, and we're under the same roof. We're under the same company. He would look at everything more from like how I kind of despise, which is more or less the mentality of profits. And let's take on that contract. How many should they need? 300 guards? No problem. 300. Wait a second. Hold on a second here. 300 guards? Are they all going to be qualified? Are they all going to have training? Are they all going to have exactly what the client is expecting from the brand? If the answer is not a 150% yes, we should not even be looking at that, right? But I hear this all the time. Right. People will say this. I've had people in the industries tell me, always say yes. Always say yes to everything. I don't buy into that philosophy. No. I need to make sure. Imagine you are Best Buy or you're a phone supplier, and you have a product called an iPhone that is extremely popular, and you have to be able to provide 200 iPhones to the Best Buy locations across New York. All the Best Buys are going to expect that their iPhones are going to have Siri, that they're going to have basically an app called iTunes, that they're going to have the same. So they're going to expect that because that's what they're buying, right? If you can't deliver that, you're going to quickly go under. The problem is that because you have a system where it's led by that motive of profits only and forget the training, forget the caliber. I know some mega companies, and I mean mega companies, I'm talking about the billion-dollar companies, that they have built into their business plan that they will lose the contract 100% within 1 to 3 years. It will happen. And they have another team in place that their sole job is to make sure that they have a replacement for when that thing gets lost. Keep in mind, they're already assuming that they're going to lose the business because of how bad their quality is. But they're a billion-dollar company, so somebody might say, well, they're doing something right. Well, it depends who you are, right? So to me, this is the reason why it's like a catch-22. It's hard to kind of like penetrate that message when you do have the wealth of billions because of what you're doing, right? But this is why I say a lot of the work that we do is purposeful work. And the goal is that everyone stays and doesn't lose that, that desire and that bug that you have. You don't want to lose that because then it'll turn into that. And that's where compromise happens. That's where mistakes happen. And that's how I look at it from a competition perspective. But how do we find good people? Like you guys, we work with hundreds and hundreds of other competitors. And everyone offers something different. We've always been of the mindset to hire good people, pay them well, and expect a lot. So for us, in order for us to have any client, we have to make sure that the client works with us and has the same views and same philosophies of security. If not, they're going to want to pay for the lowest amount because they don't value security. They don't value that. And keep in mind, security is turning into now like an insurance thing. Oh, let's just have security just for the purposes of insurance. No, this is someone that's going to put his life on the line for you potentially, and or help your environment. This is what security is, but it gets cheapened, and it just wrecks the industry, right? So the reason why I say that is because a client has to first of all tie into your philosophy. So for us, we look for that client, and if that client pays what we're going to provide, then I can now start finding people to work for us that I can pay well. That's where the whole pay them well, expect a lot. So for me, I've turned down so much business, and I'm talking about a substantial amount of business that if I was to turn away that business and give it to, like, let's say Bob, the made up business out there, he would probably be a millionaire. based on the amount of business that we've turned away. But the reason why we've turned it away is because it's not impactful to us. It's not helping us push on the message of help others. It's not able to allow us to compensate our people properly. And it doesn't allow us just to work together in a joint relationship piece that we can see win results. So we're able to attract good talent just from a pay scale because we pay our people higher than what most companies will pay their employees here. And we're paying much attention to that. The world is getting more expensive now more than ever before. So it's even more of a reason why now you got to look to get those rates pumped up for people. So that's one thing. The second thing is we offer a lot of free things to our employees so they find add value and do what they do with us. So for example, we provide free Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu days where our team will come in and they will work together and train together, build that culture and the camaraderie. We provide a lot of workshops and environments where we'll invite police services to come down and we'll have like an interaction conversation. We'll have a gym open where we can do like some physical fitness stuff together. We do a lot of things so the community is built strongly. And I'll tell you this, guys, one of the biggest wins that we have, the secret to our success, if I can share something right now, is that we pay a lot of attention on our culture. That to me is everything. If you're able to have people that enjoy what they do, that have purpose, that want to give, it all comes down to how you lead them, which is why we're very big fans of servant leadership, right? Which we hear a lot about in the military, the servant leadership. A lot of that, guys, comes from love. That's where that's built from. Like if you ask the military, the number one reason why they have such tight chemistry, why they have each other's backs, the number one key word that comes up is from love. And if that, somebody might be like, think about your true alpha military company, like love. What are you guys talking about love here right now? Like, isn't it supposed to be like a, you know what I mean? But that's truly the essence that we all are born into love, right? That's the essence of the quality that you feel. So for us, if we can tap into that and bring that to our people and connect with them and show them that we truly care, we truly want to see them win, and we work together, that in itself now becomes contagious where people want to seek to be part of an organization saying, I want to go to this company because this is how they treat their people. This is how they move. This is how they look at security. And that's been one of the reasons. And I've read books from Simon Sinek, which I am a huge fan of, that I highly recommend anyone to connect.
I think one of the best books we had, because we're in the military, is Leaders Eat Last. And he did a whole big thing because it's based off of how the Marine Corps, how we were in the Marine Corps, how we were taught leadership. And it's a really good breakdown of how it works and why it works.
Exactly. And I highly recommend that book to many people. I actually give that to my leadership. I actually buy boxes of those books and I'll put them at the front of the room and I'll have our leadership come in and go, guys, this is a book I want you guys to read. Anyone that wants it, grab it. And then I'll come out and I'll see that there's like 6 books left and only like 2 or 3 people got the book. But then I'll talk to the 2 or 3 people that read the book and they have changed in their mindset of leadership. So leadership is a huge piece to us winning, to helping with the staffing issues. Because when you hear this thing that managers don't quit their jobs, they quit their leaders or their supervisors, the managers, that is so true. I mean, unfortunately, we've had bad managers in our organization that didn't buy into what we do. And they left, our people left because of them. And that's a problem that happens globally. It's just a matter of recognizing it to address it. So that's kind of a little bit of like how we win, Jim.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's a big thing because that's one thing I touch on a lot of people when I'm teaching because I'm passionate about leadership and teaching aspects is, I tell people, I was like, you manage tasks, you lead people. So many people get hesitant, they call themselves a manager and then they try to run their teams or their people like they're going through this checkbox list of things they have to do. And that is just not how leadership is, and one of the things I learned through the military and it transferred into my law enforcement, even now to careers, as you attain rank and become and get into those supervisory roles, one, you don't need the rank to be a leader. That's a big misconception people get. Like you don't need a stripe, on your uniform or a bar. But I tell them like the reason I move up in rank is not to chew down the chain of command, not to, belittle it. Because I look at it if something were to happen and say you're the boss, Ben, and you come to me and say, hey Jim, one of your guys, messed up. Well, immediately right there, I don't go down and chew out, which is what happens a lot of times, and go after that person. I look at it and go, okay, for them to have messed up, there was a failure of leadership on my part. I need to find out what the root cause of that is. Now, when I speak to them, I look at them with the solutions and I mentor and coach, because for them to mess up, it's a failure of me as a leader. And the only thing I ever use my position for with that rank is to chew up the chain of the command, which is to fight for my people. It's never to chew down,
Mm.
that all of the, things roll downhill and it's like, okay, they do, but it should stop with you, that frontline supervisor, that leader. And you should stop and go,
Mm.
okay, this came down, this is what happened. We either need to do a look over the policy, retrain on something. Maybe it's something missing in reports. Maybe we touch on report writing in our next shift briefing. But that's where it ends, and it's a failure on us. And we need to take ownership and accountability for those things and not put it on those people. And that's just one of the things that I've seen is everyone, like, the managing aspect just drives me nuts, because it's just you can't manage people. And I love that you're creating that
Right.
culture, because you're creating that quality, and you hit it so eloquently earlier. People focus, they start off with this great vision with the quality, but then they get those contracts like you're saying, like, hey, it's 300 guys, we do this and we can make this much profit. Well, then all of a sudden something's got to give, right? For you to get that quantity, quality's got to drop. And then once you drop quality and you're
Absolutely.
able to load that, it's staying true to your values, isn't it, Constantine? Because once you say, like with anything, when you tell people with their character traits, if you give up your integrity, if you give up any of these certain things and you give up any part of your values, once you jeopardize a value, you're never going to get it back. And it just, now you further now just degraded that ability to do things. Now you're just going to constantly just degrade that to where now your quality isn't even a talk anymore. Now you become one of those companies that just pumps out quantity of guards. You may have a contract for a short time, make some money and lose it and go to the next one. And that's where these big companies, and I never understood how they remain profitable, just because the onboarding process, the cost to bring on a team.
Yes.
I'd rather take the time, assess, evaluate, get the right team members, spend the money on them, and they stay and continue to evolve, than to constantly have a revolving door that I got to consistently now spend money to train and get them up to just a basic speed. That to me is just a terrible process. But I love the free BJJ. And
Yeah.
and the thing is, like, so like law enforcement here, we tried things like that. Like, I've had some great guys, a bunch of us were defensive tactics instructors. We would teach at the police academy and with our agencies and say, look, come in on a Saturday. We'll give you guys, 6 hours of our time to free to go through advanced DT or jiu-jitsu training. We couldn't get anybody to come in, to get people to come in on their day off or to give up some time or anything there. And then you got agencies going, well, if you get injured, it's so many guys won't, they know they'll come out there and tell you, I need to train, I have to train. Society and things are getting more dangerous. However, their willingness to short-term sacrifice, I call it, their time to keep a skill acquired that could potentially save their lives, keep them safe or others, for that, they know that long-term gain. A lot of guys won't do that. That's a huge struggle here in the US. And even if we try doing that, because that's why I love what you guys are doing, because I see it and it's something like it's needed in so many different places. The US is a huge one for it. But a lot of it is you can have this culture and this mindset, but sometimes it's the people. It's that finding the
Right.
ones with the right attitude, right? Because if your attitude is good and you have zero skill, I can teach you skills all day long. But if you come in and
Hmm.
you got the crappy attitude, you could be the most skillful person in the world, but with a crappy attitude, you're not worth anything to me or the team. And I also can't teach you anything. So it's like, where do we grasp these people? And it seems like somewhere along the line, you guys have found that magic seed, what you guys are doing, because you see it all the time. I've seen your interviews. Your interviews on the podcast are great. I love how you're bringing in people from all different aspects and experiences. Mindset is something Ben and I are just huge on when it comes to humans, because it is the human element, the human factors. Humans can make or break your business. So how in tune are you in with your humans, which seems like you guys are? I mean, the book recommendations, I mean, that stuff is all phenomenal. And
Hmm.
I'll jump it over here to you, Ben, in a minute, because but this is a difference in different cultures, right? Because he puts books out there, people get them, they read them. I worked for
Mm.
a particular agency, right? And I became a liaison with the FBI Academy online, right?
Mm.
And it opened up the free courses for guys to take some really good training through the FBI's online academy for them. So I sent emails out to guys in the department and was like, hey, look, I'm the liaison for this. Here's a course outline. You guys see any courses, email me back. I'll get you into it. And that's all I had to do. And I could register for free courses. Some of them are even college credits. I get called into the captain's office because multiple people wrote an email to the captain saying that I was sending them emails about training because I thought I was better than them, and just
Mhm.
created this whole outlook. I'm like, my mindset was, well, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And if I have the ability to
Right.
help strengthen and build and raise the team, I'm sitting here thinking I'm doing a good thing. But I had so many people go behind my back thinking like this guy thinks he's better than us. He wants us to learn something. He
Right.
wants us to train. And I'm like, wow, like this is really a process. And it
Right.
happens in a lot of agencies around the world. I just
I
can't
know.
understand it. So how do we get these breakthroughs if you're there and your natural ambition is to help people make them better? How do how are we getting them to see that, to get that value that you're offering them? Because that's a tremendous value. I mean, if I was close to you, I'd come work for you just for the fact that I can get to the gym and get some training and there, just the standard. It's phenomenal. So how are you guys, I guess, really how are you staying consistent with finding that where it seems like I know for us on our end, it's almost impossible to even find, five good people out of 50, that you can
I'll,
pull
t-
from that would have.
I'll share a story with you. And to give you an example of what we look, how we look. So a lot of people would assume listening that, oh, they must look for people that are in the industry or they must look for people that have experience. I don't. A lot of our wins and our success are looking for people that are professionals in other areas or other industries, but have a desire to help people. So there's two things that I tell anyone coming into our organization. You must possess humility and you must be able to demonstrate work ethic. And if you can do those two things, you have my interest. I don't care if you have experience. I don't care how much sessions you've gone to. None of that impresses me. I just care for those two things. So I'm going to share a story right now. This actually happened, but it'll give you an understanding of how I look for the person to represent the organization. So first of all, uh, as big as we are as an organization, we've got about 200 plus people. Many would call us small based on that number, and I would agree with them. We are a niche. I would state that I've been involved in for the majority of every single person that represents the company, because the way I look at it is that back to you know the whole statement by Simon Sinek, don't look for someone that's looking for what you need, but someone that believes what you believe. I'm trying to see, do you truly see it like I do? Okay. So I interviewed one day. I like doing, by the way, panel interviews. I like having several people in the room, and I like to see, because I want the psychology to see their responses. Somebody might make a response and like, oh my God, this guy's like, how can I even give an answer right now? It's like going on like X Factor or these American Idol shows, and then you got to go up behind a guy that just sang the most incredible song in the world with the most incredible voice, and you got to be like, I got to match this guy now. So I like having interviews together in panels and just to kind of see how people's answers react from each other. And I interviewed a guy that was genuinely a farmer. Okay, his background had no security experience. He was just a farmer. Lifestyle of a farmer, we all know they get up early in the morning, they have strong work ethic,
Hmm.
they're disciplined. Their crops depend on how much they do. And if they back off and they're not on the ball, they could lose their crops and lose their earnings. So that's what a farmer is. That's what we've known a farmer always to be. Okay. I interviewed him, and right beside him, there was an EP agent, 20 plus years experience. And we were interviewing for an advanced security position. And as I'm asking questions to the both of them, I can clearly see that the EP agent has massive ego, massive. And in my experience, people that come into an organization with ego or start demonstrating ego are setting themselves up to fail very quickly. They know it all. We always tell people we need you to be like a sponge that we can pour into. If you're already full and you're not willing to learn or whatever, then we can't work with you. And that's the truth because you know it all. You know it all. You could be teaching us now. And nobody knows. As much as we've all been in the game and as much experience that we've had, We're still learning every single day. So nobody can ever say no at all. But that's who the two candidates were. Anyways, to cut the story short, I ended up choosing the farmer over the agent. And when my team first heard about it, they're like, "You crazy? Like you're gonna expect this person to be able to walk into this role?" I go, look at the skill, look at the heart, look what they do already, and factor that interview that I just had right now. This is the person. They were only with us for a year because they ended up getting onto the police service. But they did some incredible work with us in that 1 year. Incredible work. And I will still maintain to choose the path of that is like the most unorthodox way, because if I can read somebody and see that their heart and their desire is to help others, and I can demonstrate that they have humility and that we can pour into them, and they have been able to demonstrate work ethics through things that they do already, we will do everything else. And if you look at what police say when they're looking for people, they'll say the exact same thing. They'll be like, "We don't care for you to have all this. We're going to teach you that. Everything." I tell this to our people all the time. Everything you know up to this point, unlearn it right now. We're about to pour into you. We're about to go into this ride now where we're going to tell you what security means to us. And because we've already had a conversation and I brought you on, you bought into it, which means you can start absorbing it. So that, Jim, has been the reason why I can't provide 300 guards. It's because I need to make sure that every person coming in can come in and do it and have that exact same representation, that embodiment of what we look for. And I know that if they have that, our clients are going to be so happy, and that will grow. And it will grow slower than a business coming in and taking over clients by storm, but they're going to lose them. They're going to lose them. And essentially, I always tell this to people, it's a matter of time. And I talk to this to our Canadian audience. If you are doing everything that you're not supposed to do, lead by profits, don't care about the quality, eventually we will take your business. Eventually it will happen. And that's why I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush to take it. We will eventually take your business because people will be fed up with what you're offering as a product. There will be another one that they'll say, "Wait a second, this exists out there?" And that's how we get our business, guys. It's usually majority of it is by demonstrating what we're doing, why we're different, and by referral, because that's where we find that we make the most impact is having substance.
Yeah, and I think the key thing there too, is patience, right? It is so
Yes,
patience to work on it and play the game of chess. Don't play checkers with your business, play chess. And what I'm gathering is you have a long-term vision, you have goals, and you'll get there. You're continuously growing, but while you're there, you're ensuring. And basically, what you're hitting on the interview process is what we're talking is the attitude. It's the attitude and the mindset. Because I agree with you. There's so many guys that can have the best record on paper. I mean, I've seen Navy SEALs, EP agents there, and it's great on paper. But the minute you put them in front of an interview and you start asking particular questions, and it's like, okay, this guy is just not going to fit. He's not going to fit with the culture of the organization, but he's also not going to fit with the team or the client that you're looking to potentially, put them with. And I tell people all the time, from my perspective, ego is just is an emotion that you have to keep in check, because too much ego just makes you too emotional, and too much emotion makes you irrational, and no one ever makes a good decision in an irrational state of mind, which is why, like Ben and I, but different things we talk about is always respond professionally, don't respond emotionally. Emotion is just a terrible trigger, and I
absolutely.
love that
And
because
no,
go
absolutely.
ahead.
To kind of complement what you're saying, I think also with that, why so many people fail, and I'm not just talking about our industry in general, is because they're looking for the quickest, fastest way to get something, and they're looking at it from a very short-term perspective. They're not thinking of it long-term. And that's
Yep.
what plagues many people, is that they want something now. I just started,
Yeah.
but I should be this now. And they'll make a move that will actually haunt them because they're thinking short term, which will actually now haunt any possible possibility of your long term goal because of what you did in your short term. So I think
Oh,
these are why I preach on these things so much, is because I hate to see people come to us make a really bad move because they just saw what was in the moment now. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yep. And it's not even a clear picture in that moment. The glass is still fuzzy. And I'm with you because I see that all the time. I see guys that'll come in, they'll take like an entry level arm type security position, and they want to all of a sudden be on a travel EP team. They want to do what they see or hear as a cool guy stuff, and it's like, look, there is a process. There is a process
Right.
of putting you through these particular roles in the security industry. I call it and tell people it's getting brilliant at the basics, right? Because if you can't do the basic entry level type job of what we need in the security industry and do that well, do it proficient, get it processed in your subconscious that you are doing that repeatedly and well over and over again, then I can't put you into these advanced things. But they, like you said, it's this world of tech and instant gratification. People think one, at least we're seeing it here in the States. People think that when they come interview with you, that they're doing you the favor. And it's like, there's times
Mm.
when I was growing up, you're in for the job, you know what I mean? Like you're just thankful for that interview and, and appreciating someone's time. Now it's more like, well, you're welcome. I decided to show up today to come sit in on your interview. It's like, right there. It's like,
Right.
you don't even have to start the interview today. You can go ahead. Thank you for your time. Have a good day because you've already demonstrated and shown you're not the right
Right.
person. But yeah, that short sightedness is so common because I see all the time. Because I use the word patience a lot, and people get like,
Mm.
you have to be patient. You're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, learning the basics, get them skills. It seems like people are like sometimes like, yeah, I like doing the entry level stuff because it gets me
Mhm.
back into the skill set and working on certain skills that maybe I get out of touch with when I'm sitting behind a desk for a while. That's why I like going
Mm.
operational and moving and doing things, right? Because we still got to know, like you said, Constantly, we're always learning. Everything's
Right.
evolving, tech's evolving, the industry's evolving. The minute you think you know it all, you failed. You hit that so clearly. I think it was Christian West that said it a while back. It was a good quote. He was like, the minute you call yourself an expert in anything, you become an X in that field. And it was
Mm.
just it just rung so true because you're already capping yourself off, right? You're like, okay, I've hit max capacity, there's nothing more that I can learn, so I'm tuning out, I'm shutting off, and you can't tell me any different. Where those of us that are going to succeed and prosper in this, knowing, look, what we've done today is going to change tomorrow. Technology is going to change tomorrow. The way we do an advance here, I mean, I haven't been to Toronto, but I would say Toronto today, as opposed to 20 years ago, if you're trying to do an advance or work that city the same way you did 20 years ago now, you're going to be very unsuccessful at it because the scope and landscape of that has changed. Different areas in the
That's right.
cities have changed. The people have changed in one way or another.
Right. Right.
So,
Exactly.
and one of the most, I think, things that aren't looked at, like Ben and I are looking at, because we're looking to re-emphasize and design the whole soft skills training people tend to neglect, is communications is a skill. But that's the big thing with some of these guys with ego. They don't know how to properly communicate. They don't know how to get certain things and protect that confident information, how to work through certain things when it comes to those behavioral cues, understanding situational awareness. And the key to being good at situational awareness is being self-aware. And like you said, if you got a
Right.
20-year guy with that kind of ego with attitude, he's demonstrated to me he's got zero self-awareness. And if you got
That's
zero
right.
self-awareness of how
That's
you're
right.
presenting what's going on, then okay, that to me that's already an X because you're neglecting the most basic part, which is you got to do that work on yourself. That's what is going to transfer the mindset. That's what's going to calibrate the machine to work effectively. And if we're not
Right.
properly taking care and doing that maintenance on ourselves, understanding what triggers, what may bias us in any of these different events, then okay, well then we're no good to you. At some point
Right.
we're going to be due for maintenance, and we didn't do the proper maintenance, and it's going to be time for us to be put out to pasture, and you need to upgrade to a new machine, right? And
Right.
the mindset is just mindset and attitude is so huge. Skills can be taught. I'm glad
Mm.
I thought you were probably going to hire that farmer in the story. It definitely made sense too, because like you said, a work ethic. He gets up. You're going to get someone that's going to give you tireless effort. If they believe in your mission, you're going to get a good thing. And then when you develop his skill set, and then he comes out and you've invested in him, you just got someone that's going to continue to invest in you and in your vision. That's the other thing
That's
people don't
right.
get either, right? Like it comes down
Right.
to, I mean, Ben, you probably hit us right. Basic human needs. Take the time to
Oh yeah.
understand their need when they're presenting in an interview. What motivates them? Is it the money that motivates them? Is it the passion for wanting to make a difference in the community? being a part of something bigger than themselves? Is it the education and learning that you're offering that's a motivator? Once you understand what their motivating factors are, then it's even so much easier to lead them and guide them to where you want with your vision, because you know what's going to continuously to make them happy and make them come to work for you. It could be the fact
Right.
that Constantine gives out a free book every 3 months for them to read, and there's someone that's passionate about reading and learning, and they know, man, every 3 months I get a cool new book to read, and I get this new fire in my belly, now, and he's really investing me to be a leader. I always wanted to become a good leader, and I have these opportunities here, and I love
Mm.
what you guys are doing, because it's the whole back to what I said earlier. What if we train them and they leave, and what if we don't if they stay? Well, you're training them and they are staying, and they might stay for a year,
Right.
like you said, and go into the police force. But you know what? For you and your passion, and this is what a good business owner is, right? Is knowing and supporting those people. Hey, I'm glad you gave us the opportunity. I'm glad you grew with us. And then sometimes people will stay with you, but it's also in life, right? In general, people will grow with you to a point and then they move on. Not that it's anything bad, but
Right.
hey, man, I'm glad we were here to grow with you when you needed growth the most. And I'm glad we're able to get you where you're going. I wish you the best of luck. And like you say, remember that.
Okay.
And then when they got a buddy that goes, hey, man, I'm stuck on the fence and I like to do what you're doing. How did you do it? Well, here's this really cool thing. You go down to Sentinel over here and you talk to Constantine and these guys. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, go in there with a good attitude. If you go in there with the right attitude, those guys will treat you right, and you'll be here where I am. And then you, like you said,
Exactly.
you just build that, and you're just changing a broken system one person at a time. And it's just, if we can just get
That's
more
it.
people into this philosophy, because I think it's just phenomenal, because I see it all the time. I hear it all the time. I travel in the States and it's like, okay, I hear the problems. What's your solutions? What are you doing about it? And a lot of people just gripe to gripe. So it's very, for me, very refreshing when you hear a guy that comes from a diverse background such as yourself, sees a need, fills a need, but not only looks at it, but fills a need in a proper manner with the right people, the right values, and is just, you guys really are making a huge change. I've loved since I met you guys and talking to Steve and the different guys you bring along. You guys are just doing a phenomenal job, and I wish I could just take you guys, plug you, and replicate that here in the U.S., because I just think it would be a phenomenal thing. We need it. Um,
Yeah. Thank
yeah,
you.
I really don't have much more to say. And there's just so much good things just to say about it, Ben. And you've been kind of
Yeah.
quiet,
Thank
so
you.
good
Well,
job, Ben.
that's what kind of I feared at the start. I've learnt by now with me and Jim, we're talkers, so like it's best to let him go, let him wind him up and watch him go. But also as a viewer in this scenario, I wanted to kind of sit back and listen to you guys kind of spit, because I don't work in the EP side at all, right? That's not my kind of field of expertise by any stretch of the imagination. So just for me as well to be able to sit vicariously and listen, it's been huge. And there's been a couple of moments where myself I just got sat listening, going, no, actually, I'm sorry. I'm being recorded here. I should be smiling, or or something else. And I'm just listening in that scenario. But any number of points I could kind of pick up on in this way, and I think what it boils down to is just as much for the industry as it is for the particular people, like that EP guy in your interview story, is to be able to learn. You have to admit that there are things that you don't know, and it,
Hmm.
it takes it takes a very particular kind of person to be able to do that. And me and Jim have spoke about him a lot. I was watching the Neil deGrasse Tyson masterclass that he's done on the masterclass site, and he made reference to a story that if somebody were to give you a crystal and say, this crystal cures all disease, and you went, oh my god, that's amazing, that's great, or get that out of here, that's ridiculous, that is a crystal. Both are as intellectually lazy as each other. In that scenario, if
Right.
you're presented with something that you don't know, don't understand, it is your responsibility to ask questions about it. Is it specific settings, specific whatever it is? So, in the same way that when people come in, their aptitude for being able to accept information, I would imagine, is a pretty big factor in knowing how prevalent their ego is going to be, or knowing how cooperative they're going to be on a team, or how well they're going to be able to pay attention to this, or bring in this particular way of doing it. You see it all the time in martial arts classes, as we've referenced them a couple of times. In that, if you're going over a particular technique, one Rambo in the back is going, "Well, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd do it this way. Well, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd do it this way." Fab. Good for you. There's a hypnotherapist friend of mine. um I love his story, because he's such a stoic, like visually, facially, anything you've got to bring to him. If it's you're looking for a rise out of him, you're looking in the wrong place. And a client had asked him to come to their house to I don't know, stop smoking or wait or whatever it is that hypnotherapists go and do. And he sat down with her, and she went, "I'm sorry, I had you recommended by a friend of mine. I don't think you'd be able to hypnotize me. I don't really think it's going to work." And so I went, "Cool." Put her money back on the counter, walked out the door, and went home. He was just not that those kind of battles for people that are unwilling to open. So I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested. And
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, it was 2-3 weeks later. He said, sure enough, she came back and she was like, "Oh, I've done some more reading about it. I've learned this about it." Fair enough. They went. They did the session. They had a great session as a result. So what particularly stuck out to me about you guys is that you're just more focused on doing, well, seemingly, so please correct me if I'm wrong, seemingly doing the right thing, putting the right foot forward for the people every time, rather than numbers and, "Oh God, we've got millions of followers on that." Like, who cares? That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything
Right.
if you're doing the
Absolutely.
right thing, and that's such a wonderful thing to sit back and listen to. So I'm curious, if I might kind of paint a hypothetical picture for you. If there was somebody that whatever the hypothetical context might be, that you had to work with, and there was a bone of contention about their mindset in that way, would that be an area that you would look for things to improve for the person, or look for things to change about the person in that way? Because that's working with a particularly contentious individual anyway. Are they going to be more receptive to hearing how they can do things better in order to eventually do them right, or or about the things that they need to change in order to be able to do them right? How would you tackle something like that?
So if I was dealing with someone that had a mindset that I'm just doing this to get paid and that's
Mm,
it, I'm not working with you, for example. End of story, done. I'm not
mm,
looking to grow. You've made your position very clear to me. And I'm not going to try to convince you. I'm not going to try to change you. That's who you are. However, if we now look at the mindset of an individual who's with us, who wants to be with us, and they may say something on the lines of, "Here's how I would deal with the situation.
mm,
I would deal with it like this," and I see that the situation is flawed, how they would
mm,
respond.
mm,
And then I said to them, "Well, what if you tried it like this? Do you think there may be an opportunity for a better reaction?" And they were to open and see it. If someone is willing, again, back to humility,
yeah.
to look at a different way of doing things that may be outside of their regular, but they're open to it. They're open to
Mm,
it, right? That's an example of a mindset that I'm willing to work with. The ones that I'm not willing to work with are the ones that have the know-it-all,
mm,
that are ones that are glaring egos, the ones
mm,
that think truly they are God's gift to the world. And to me, that's the part which is almost scary, because it's like, man, like a lot of times I will look at something and be like, why is this person like this?
mm,
And they're in their 40s. Have they not learned through their years? Like, usually you'd expect something like that to happen to someone young
yeah.
and
Mhm.
then evolve into something. But when someone is like growing and they're getting older and they're stuck in their ways, for
Yeah.
example, and they're not, that's the one that I'll run away from them. I'll flee from them because I want nothing to do with them. And I'll give you another example. Like, I'm really big on energy, meaning as in, um, you know, I want to be surrounded around people that are gonna level me up, that are gonna create positivity, that are gonna just keep like everything in a positive mindset. When I start seeing people coming with a negative mindset
Mm.
and it's so contained, meaning it's like it's so bad, I clearly cut things off at that level because I know that they have the ability, and it's scientifically proven that someone that exposes or expels negative energy can bring down the energy of someone that's happy, right?
Yes.
And to me, the reverse can also happen. If I come in and I'm happy and I'm excited and I'm good, your energy level are going to increase because of what I'm doing, right? Think about it. If you're having a rough, bad day and you had to happen to put on a social media YouTube clip of something funny, or you go to a comedy show, it's going to snap you out because the crowd's laughing. You're going to maybe like, you might be like, and then suddenly you start breaking, and then suddenly you forget why you're mad or why you're upset. The exact same thing. So I'm so
Yep.
protective
Mhm.
of who represents us, because one bad person can, as they say, one bad apple can start spoiling the whole bunch just like that.
Absolutely.
So it really depends, Ben, on how the mindset is working and to what it's working for, where I'll be determined this is fixable, this is not.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I love that. That's
Yeah,
that.
man.
What came across the most about your response there is that, look, this is how we work in terms of the benefit for who we are, what we do, and the benefit of the people that we get to work with. That is irrefutably not moving primary job number one, right? And that's the
Right.
only way that that's going to seep out. I love that. I was thinking about that earlier. I love that you circled back to that. The infectious nature of emotion, really. You know,
Yes.
if I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by somebody who's full belly laughing, if I don't really know what they're laughing about, I might start chuckling as well.
Right.
So if you're working hard,
Right.
openly, cooperatively, that's going to seep through in that particular way. It's the Rambo's thing. My very first martial arts school ever years ago. My coach had a sign above the door that just said no Rambos. It's just what it
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Anyone that walked in, they were tip tapping, flashing. They were politely and sometimes physically asked to leave because they would harm
Yeah.
everyone's growth and skill development as a result in that area. I just love it. I love it so much. It
Yeah.
reminds me of the
Yes.
I think it was Russell Branson. I don't necessarily agree with him a lot, but this particular quote, which was train your people well enough that they can leave, treat them well enough that they don't want to. And
Mm.
that's
Yeah, I've heard that one.
it's
Great.
if we could kind of get that kind of concept into pretty much most industries, to be fair, but particular to this one, to ours. Oh, think of
Mm.
just think of the things that we could do when everyone was motivated
That's
towards
right.
doing the right thing, as opposed to being number one in this area or an expert in this area. Okay, cool. You've
Yep.
said to me you've stopped learning. Cool. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep improving. Enjoy eating my dust on the way past.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
The huge thing with that is knowing when to cut the cords on certain people. I love that because I'm with you on the energy aspect. I've over the years become more and more protective of it. We know who
Mm,
gets your energy, who gets your time, and it is all goes back to it's a mindset thing because you have the ability
Mm.
to choose whether or not something is going to affect you, positively or negatively, or if it even garners a reaction to you at all, which is an emotional response, right? We're in control of those things. Again, that goes back to self-awareness and what you're willing to
That's
accept,
right.
because that would be one of my biggest things all the time. You talk to someone, they're like, oh, I had a bad day, and then you give them, you reframe their little perspective and go, a bad day, there's 24 hours in a day. So you had a bad 24 hours. Did you have like a bad 2 minutes, a bad 45 seconds, maybe a bad hour out of a 24-hour day?
Mm.
And they're like, well, it was a bad couple minutes. I'm like, you're going to let then a couple minutes out of a 24-hour day keep you in this frame of mind that's going to keep you from getting your tasks done or being present in the moment with your family or your kids or work. You're going to let that affect your mood that much. Why is that little event, that minuscule moment in time, going to have that much power and effect over you? And I think once you start changing
Mm.
perspective on that, it's like, I think it was like a Tom Hanks thing. They were doing like a table dinner or something, like he learned, I wish he would have learned earlier in life, was the phrase, this too shall pass. He's like, you're having a
Yes.
bad moment, this too shall pass, or this, things are great, it'll
Mm,
pass. Always know life is ebb and flow, right? It's going to be
mm,
so much of these different
Right.
moments, but we have and choose how we respond to those. And if you can find, which I think was why we all connect to, Constantine, it's almost like a lot of us in this industry, there's a small group that come together and the relationship stays. Like, I only maybe have gotten to see in the last couple of years. I see Constantine maybe once a year, but I'll message him periodically or
Mhm.
we'll talk and we can jump on here. But he's one of those guys, if he called me tomorrow and needed something, I'd be there. You just know when you
mm.
connect with the right people. And then you might not get to see him
Right.
often, but when I see
That's,
him, the conversation is going to be good and you're doing great things and you support and you're always like cheering for those people from afar. And there's
Right.
not many of us out here, at least from what I found, there's just not too many of us out there that are genuinely cheering for our teammates. It's like there's so much. If you're looking from a business perspective, there's so much business. People are like, oh, this the field is yeah, you have a lot of business, but there's so much work out there. Like it's not competition. I look at it, if Constantine and I can get together on a project, we're a force multiplier. I don't see another guy as a competition. I look at it as no, now you're gonna get two great companies. Or, me and Constantine, one other company like mine are like, hey, now you got three great companies of force multiplier. And now
Right.
we're driving everything up because we have this and what you're getting, you're just gonna continue to drive and get this immersion quality of training and people and like that's what is needed. And if you
Right.
have more people doing it and just coming together, it's just like, man, so much good can happen in the world. It's just getting there and things, which is why I'm very particular who I work with, who I work for, because it's the same thing, being protective of that. I'm very passionate on what I train, what I teach, and I don't want things that are going to take away everything that you work so hard for. Like you say with Sentinel,
Right.
we're very particular in what we're hiring.
mm,
Yeah, I get it. You may have a bad day. Your mindset may shift a little bit because maybe you had a personal experience or something happen. But that's where if you got good supervisors, good people paying attention, understanding their people, you pick up on those behavioral shifts and cues, and you notice that Susie all of a sudden, the last couple of days in her shifts hasn't been her normal self. It doesn't take much for someone to say, "Hey, Susie, how you been? You don't speak into everything good," and just seeing somebody, acknowledging somebody. I mean, those are game changers, and that changes the mindset, changes the attitude because people underestimate the value of someone actually being seen, heard, and acknowledged. And that's a big key part of
Right.
prevention when it comes to some of these events, that are happening in the states with the active shooter events, the prevention part. There's
Mm.
always a sign,
Yes.
there's always a clue, but no one is stepping in and saying, "Hey, John, you haven't been the same here since you didn't get the promotion. How's things?" And open up that conversation like, damn, someone noticed that I haven't been myself. And then that maybe triggers in them, it brings that self-awareness into it. And like there's just so many aspects around humans that if we just
mm,
paid
Yeah.
a little more attention, look after one another, I mean, you're just gonna just continue to grow this process. And I'll jump off the soapbox here because I think we've got a lot of good information. Oh, I love the interview aspect. That's one last thing I want to touch on. So I love the fact that
Okay.
you said you're interviewing the guys together. So I would then, if I had a safe assumption, by doing that, one, you're getting a good real time assessment of candidates along each other. But I would
Yes.
also assume you're also weeding out those people that have Google searched resume questions, and you're no
Exactly.
longer you're no longer getting those consistent what they want to hear answers because now they've heard someone next to them speak on it. And now if it's what they kind of had already prepped, they're like, man, well, I can't give the same answer as Joe. So now I have to actually come up with my own genuine answer. So I think you're
Exactly.
gonna kind of get more of the natural person out of them because it's a reverse panel, right? Because it's you and the candidates as
Right.
opposed to most law enforcement panels is one applicant comes in and sits down in front of a panel of like five, law enforcement administrators. So it's usually all the pressure
Mm.
on that. When in turn
Yes.
it's like now you actually are changing that dynamic, which I think is phenomenal. I don't think I've heard of many people doing that. I think you might be a pioneer or innovator in that because I haven't
Yeah.
heard it, but it makes 100% sense because you're going to get a
It
different
does.
feel for that person. And like you said, I might catch that side eye, that one guy that gives that good answer. You can pick up and go, okay, you can see how this person's responding to someone that may be more
Yeah,
qualified than them or less qualified than them. So you start to get a really good nonverbal read of people. And then when it's their turn, it's like, I
that's
feel
right.
like that's a good perspective of getting a good feel of who your potential applicants are.
That's
Because
right. That's right.
yeah. And then the primacy recency effect. They always used to tell you, right? Don't be the guy that gets interviewed in the middle of the day. You either want to be the first interviewer or the last interviewer of the day, because typically, if you're sitting there on those panels, if you're the first guy that comes in, you can set the tone. But if you're the last guy that comes in, same thing. You could finish off and get all that attention on you if you interview well. But if you're in the middle, they tend to kind of forget a lot of those guys in there. So what you've done is you kind of put them in a line and said, okay, I don't have to worry about going through my notes and trying to remember who my 9:30 interview was. I've got 3 guys right here, and I've knocked them out. And out of these 3, I've already now rated them 1 through 3, and in the next group.
Right.
And now you've got a better system of how you can process applicants. I think that's phenomenal. I like it.
Yeah, man. Try it out. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Don't give
I've
away
got
all his
I've,
trade
I've got a
secrets,
whole
Jim.
I've got a whole bunch of different questions and stuff that I use that gauge, and I connect the subconscious and the conscious to having a good, open, honest, truthful interview.
Right.
But I
Absolutely.
like to add that to that approach, because it'd be probably get a lot more out of some assessments. It'd be a lot more fun to do. I like it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I was
So if
just curious.
anyone's listening, there's a golden nugget. If you're interviewing folks, there's something for you to try. You might be
People are
pleasantly
There you go.
surprised with what you see.
writing this down.
Right?
There you
So
go.
I was just curious then, Constantine, if if we were looking at the big 5, it'd be openness. If we were looking at Schwartz's values, it might be stimulation and self-direction. Call it whatever you want. But if somebody was looking to try and be more open, be more willing, be more receptive to these kinds of changes, what are some of the things that you would recommend that they do in order to open themselves up a little bit more to that way of life, dare I say?
So part of what and I'm assuming that person has given us enough meat and potatoes to get past the interview stage. For us, we have in our training. So we do a lot of the training that you referenced to Steve Somerville, the Stay Safe training.
Yeah.
A lot of his training and research is built around empathy, right, and having the ability to look at things in an empathetic way to give the best response. Um, a lot of the stuff that we would do would be through an orientation, and we would go through a lot of the stuff that we look for in people when it comes to body language, when it comes to the way you communicate. It's not just like you got to do this. It's like we want to put you through a series of information overload, and then what we would do in our second day of training is we would start putting scenarios around you. We bring in an actor, and we would now have you put in these situations where we can see, put to the test right now, everything that you've learned and absorbed and what we've coached you. Can you apply that to this scenario? You'd be surprised. You would think that everyone would come in and right away get it because this is a test. Like there's an actor. I'll fake my answer. But they get lost into the realism of the scenario. But we do use the coaching ability. So as long as someone is humble to acknowledge that the way that we need to have it done is the way that we're kind of pushing out, and they're open to that, we will do well. But it's the ego that usually crushes that, or the disinterest, meaning as in someone doesn't see the value. I don't really want to do this. I just want to, and that, by the way, would weed them out as well in that stage. So there's a lot of layers to it. I think it's just a matter of like just finding that person that is willing to come in, and if we go back full circle of what we look for, and that is to be the protector and have it inside you. If we can identify that, I think the rest is just going to come to you, and it's just a matter of having that open mind to receive. You know what I mean? And that's where humility comes into place.
Yeah, love it, love it. Thank you, sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So yeah, guys, that brings us to the end of another tumble down the rabbit hole, shall we say, of development within the security world. Thank you so much to Constantine for being here today and sharing just valuable insight, not only in terms of the security world, but the personal world as well, in terms of your connection and your ability to have an effect on those around you. There's been a lot of it's a biased point, I grant you, but there's been a lot of gold shared for me today. I've taken a lot away from this, so seriously, thank you very much. For those people that are out there that are looking to stay in touch with what your work and what you're doing, what you're getting up to, where is the best place for them to stay in contact with you or within easy reach?
Okay, so for us, if people want to get an idea of who we are as an organization, as a company, that would be sentinelsecurityplus.com. And if you wanted just to tap into a lot of the messaging that we spoke about today, that would be through our platform, the Sentinel Mindset. It is also found on our website, but if you put in the Sentinel Mindset on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, any podcast, you will also be able to pull up things. We do a lot of video as well, as we just love to bring and capture, what's happening around the world. I'm really thankful to both of you guys for having me on the show today. I can clearly see you guys are both passionate about the industry as well. And I'm glad that you guys are creating a platform for people to kind of share and, create this contagious community.
That's right.
Love it.
Thank
Love
you.
it. Jerry Springer couldn't have put the final thoughts better. Thank you very much, sir. So with that in
Amazing,
mind, guys, it's the usual part. If you enjoyed this, drop a few comments down below. Let us know what you learned. More so than anything else from today's episode, make sure that you subscribe to every available platform that you can. It might seem like a little insignificant thing that everybody asks for you to be able to do, but it really does help us be able to bring podcasts and episodes and wonderful people like Constantine to your faces and your screens, so that you can learn from their journeys as well. So with that in mind, we're going to love you and leave you, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys. Have a great one. Take care.